We define enabling environment as a set of regulatory or legal, financial and political framework conditions provided by donors and governments for civil society organizations.
We understand the enabling environment for CSOs is a very supportive legal framework for their operations, a mechanism for acknowledgement of the achievement and contribution of these organizations in the country developments.
If there's no enabling environment in the country, if we don't have the freedom of association, the freedom of speech, the freedom to organize, the freedom to raise money, we can't possibly be effective. So it's up to the government to do its part by giving the enabling environment, and then we will do our part to be as effective as possible.
The enabling environment in Africa. Oh, that's a big issue. Now, what we are trying to do about this is to see how we can have solidarity among African civil society organizations, because they have different experiences depending on at the level where they are at and their country situation.
Talking from experience in the Philippines, human rights activists are often subjects of political repression. So different forms of political repression, from harassment, abduction to political killings. So it's really very dangerous and very difficult. And for such very, very dangerous work of human rights, I think there needs to be a lot of support.
We say, okay, now with democracy, with democratic governments, things will be easy. It's true, but it's not enough. You have more and more regulations, and not necessary to help you or to facilitate your work.
In the Pacific, you have two industrialized countries, Australia and New Zealand, and then you have many, many small island nations. And some of those island nations are struggling with the enabling environment. For example, Fiji is run by a military government right now. So the repression there is severe, and they couldn't even talk about the enabling environment in that consultation.
Enabling environment is key to the journey that we have marched so far. And believe it or not, enabling environment is not conducive in Cambodia right now. With the threat of an introduction of a restrictive legislation that may restrict our work, our ability to perform independently and serve the people of Cambodia.
Government went behind our back and came up with a law that is not very conducive to our existence in Zambia, especially NGOs that are involved in advocacy work. Yeah. And they've put in conditions where, as an NGO, you have to reapply like every year. As Zambia, we are not alone in this situation. Most of the NGOs, especially African NGOs and some NGOs in Asia, and also, for example, given an example of Cambodia, they are in a situation where there are all these laws either being governed by weak laws or by hostile laws. But as civil society, we are determined, I think, to move on, to face government, to face donors, and make our voices heard and stronger in terms of unity.
¿Cómo está el asunto del ambiente habilitante? Nosotros encontramos que en particular hay como tres tipos de ambiente. Uno en donde tenemos leyes favorables, leyes amistosas, leyes que promueven la organización social, pero ahí las organizaciones encuentran problemas de implementación. Hay una buena ley, pero a la hora de implementarla en la realidad, la voluntad política no es tan clara. Tenemos un segundo grupo de países en donde las organizaciones encontramos que no hay políticas claras. Entonces, si no hay una política nacional clara, cada funcionario público, cada servidor público trata a la organización social como le parece, como él cree que debe hacer. Y hay otro grupo de países en donde hay claramente leyes que persiguen la organización, que la declaran ilegal, que declaran, que criminalizan sus actividades y sus acciones en determinados momentos.
So there is kind of well, maybe a wave is too much to say, but there are several industrialized countries where governments are defunding national platforms. So the open forum actually, I think, comes along at a time, a very opportune time, because CSOs can be seen to be being very responsible and wanting to be more effective to the poor and marginalized at a time when governments are saying, you know, we don't want to bother with you anymore.
One good thing about Open Forum in terms of working on enabling environment is that it actually has provided a space for civil society to talk among themselves, discuss how, you know, the different situations, because sometimes we just know our own situation, but with the Open Forum, organizations from different countries got to know exactly what kind of disabling environment they have in their respective countries, and the Open Forum facilitated the discussion not just on, you know, sharing of experiences, but also on brainstorming or talking about how to address or to deal with this situation, and come up with concrete actions on addressing those disabling factors.
We were able to bring together civil society organizations, governments, and donors. That is a very rare occasion in Africa. And so having people speaking very openly about what they do and how effective they think they are doing it at a level where they have the government and donors present and questioning the role of the government and role of donors and the environment that enables them to do their job, that was another great achievement.
After the General Assembly here in Siem Reap, we can, it is also our plan to conduct another really official national consultations where we also invite the ministry's representative who is responsible for aid effectiveness agendas and development agenda in Vietnam, and also the donors communities. We want really to link the Open Forum with the aid effectiveness agendas in Vietnam.
¿Qué oportunidades ha creado el Foro Abierto para un diálogo multiactores? Pues cada una de las 15 consultas nacionales terminó en un diálogo multiactores. Entonces, en países como Colombia, República Dominicana, en Argentina, en Brasil, hubo unas posibilidades de discusiones e intercambio con funcionarios gubernamentales o con personas del mundo académico o con personas del mundo de las fundaciones empresariales que escucharon de nuestras actividades, que escucharon de nuestras conclusiones y nos presentaron sus propias opiniones. En los talleres de síntesis regional hubo una presencia muy interesante de otros actores que fueron precisamente creadas gracias al Foro Abierto.
When I was coming to Russia, I expected, I had very low expectations because I know that the environment for civil society in Russia is not the best one. But then when I was at the consultation, there was actually a very vivid engagement from officials from the foreign ministry. And because what the Russian CSOs did was they used the Open Forum consultation as a vehicle to promote their multi-stakeholder dialogue with the Russian government. To be more precise, what they wanted to convince the Russian government to include them more and better in the emerging development cooperation program that the Russian government is now designing and expanding. And the feedback that I got after the consultation was that the Open Forum has really helped the Russian CSOs to make their case towards the Russian government. And so that was a very successful example, for instance.
At the regional level, we're still struggling because as a recipient region, largely a recipient region, you know, donors look at us as beneficiaries, not really equal actors on the development table. So we're getting there. But slowly, little by little, because of the Istanbul principles, because of the legitimacy of the national consultations, the donors and governments cannot deny us. You know, they cannot ignore our presence, and we won't stop.